The sun was setting when a routine delivery took an unexpected turn that would leave everyone stunned. A cheerful little girl, no older than 7, answered the door with an innocent smile, unaware of the events about to unfold. She greeted the delivery driver politely, her small voice barely carrying over the quiet neighborhood. The driver, a kind man in his late 30s, smiled back and handed over the package. But as he glanced past her into the house, something caught his eye that made his heart skip a beat. He hesitated, his instincts kicking in, sensing that something wasn't quite right. "Is your mom or dad home?" he asked carefully. The little girl's reply was both unexpected and chilling. The driver's mind raced as he pieced together what he'd seen and heard, and within moments he was dialing 911. What did the delivery driver see? Why was this ordinary home now the center of a life-changing call for help? As sirens blared in the distance, the truth about what lay inside that house would shock everyone. Stay tuned to uncover the mystery behind the delivery driver's fateful decision and how one act of courage changed lives forever. The delivery driver's hands trembled slightly as he explained the situation to the 911 operator. His instincts told him something was wrong, though he couldn't fully explain why. From the moment the little girl opened the door, her words had been strange, innocent but unsettling. She had mentioned that her parents were resting and couldn't come to the door. But when the driver glanced inside, he noticed a strange stillness in the house. The living room looked tidy, almost too perfect, as if frozen in time. There were no sounds of a TV, no clatter of dishes in the kitchen, and no movement anywhere in sight. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. "Are you alone?" he had asked the girl, trying to sound calm. She hesitated for a moment, her small face unsure, before answering, "I'm not supposed to say." That was the moment his concern turned into alarm. While waiting for the authorities to arrive, the driver stayed at the door, his protective instincts taking over. He wanted to keep the little girl safe, but he also couldn't ignore the eerie silence beyond her. What was happening inside that house? As the minutes dragged on, the tension grew thicker, and so did the mystery. As the minutes passed, the delivery driver couldn't shake the growing unease in his chest. He stayed calm for the little girl's sake, asking her questions to keep her distracted while he kept an eye on the house. Her answers only added to the mystery. She mentioned her parents often worked late, but something about her voice didn't match her words. It was almost as if she were reciting lines she'd been told to say. The driver noticed subtle details that deepened his worry. A faint, almost imperceptible smell wafted from the open door, something metallic, unfamiliar, and hard to place. The lights in the hallway flickered slightly, and the shadowy interior of the home felt oddly heavy, like it was holding on to secrets too big to hide. The little girl's demeanor, though sweet, carried an unusual composure for her age, as if she'd been left to fend for herself far too often. Meanwhile, the 911 operator assured him that help was on the way, urging him to stay put. But staying put wasn't easy. Every passing second made him feel like time was slipping away. Was someone inside the house? Were they in trouble, or was this a false alarm? The questions swirled, unanswered, as the sound of distant sirens finally broke the stillness of the night. The distant sound of sirens grew louder, cutting through the eerie quiet. The delivery driver felt a wave of relief, but it was short-lived. The little girl, who had been standing calmly at the door, suddenly turned her head toward the dark hallway behind her. Her expression shifted, just for a moment, as though she had heard something or someone. "I think they're awake now," she said softly, her voice almost too calm for the words she spoke. The driver's stomach tightened. "Who's awake?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. But the little girl didn't answer. Instead, she stepped back slightly, her small hand resting on the edge of the door as though she might close it. The driver leaned in, his instincts urging him not to let her disappear back inside. He glanced into the shadowy interior again, catching sight of something, just a flicker of movement in the corner of his eye. Was it his imagination, or was there someone standing deeper inside the house? The sirens were now just around the corner, the flashing lights casting faint streaks of red and blue onto the nearby houses. The driver's heart raced as he heard the unmistakable creak of a floorboard from within the house. Someone was definitely there. He could feel it. But who? And why hadn't they come to the door? As the first police car screeched to a stop in front of the house, the tension in the air was palpable. Whatever was happening inside, they were about to find out. But the truth might be more than anyone was ready for. The police officers stepped out of their vehicles, their flashlights cutting through the growing darkness. The delivery driver quickly explained what he had seen and heard, his words tumbling out in an urgent whisper. Meanwhile, the little girl stood silently in the doorway, her expression now unreadable. One of the officers crouched down to her level, speaking gently, but she didn't respond. Instead, she glanced back into the house again, her wide eyes fixed on the shadowy hallway. The officers moved toward the door, calling out loudly, "Police, is anyone inside?" For a moment, nothing happened. Then a faint sound emerged from deeper in the house, a soft, rhythmic thumping, like something knocking against a wooden surface. The sound grew louder, more deliberate, sending a chill through everyone standing outside. One officer gestured for the others to stay alert as they cautiously stepped inside, their flashlights illuminating the eerily still rooms. The delivery driver stayed outside with the girl, but he couldn't stop watching. Then, as if breaking the spell, the girl whispered something under her breath. It wasn't supposed to go like this. The driver's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" he asked, but she didn't answer. Instead, she slowly turned to face him, her expression now strangely calm. And just as the officers called out from inside, their voices tinged with shock, the little girl whispered again, "They shouldn't have woken up." The officers' shouts grew more urgent as they ventured deeper into the house. The delivery driver stood frozen, trying to make sense of the little girl's unsettling words. Before he could press her further, a sudden crash echoed from inside, followed by a tense silence. Then came the sound of heavy footsteps, running, stumbling, and heading straight for the front door. One of the officers emerged first, his face pale. He glanced at the little girl, and then at the delivery driver, his voice sharp. "Take her to the car, now." The driver didn't hesitate, scooping the girl up as gently as he could, while she remained eerily calm. As he moved toward the police car, another officer appeared, supporting a disheveled man who looked half-conscious. Blood streaked his forehead, and his wild eyes darted around as he muttered incoherently. Behind them, a woman staggered out, her face pale but determined. "It's over," she said, her voice trembling, though it wasn't clear if she was speaking to the officers or herself. The driver turned to the little girl, his heart pounding. "Who are they?" he asked quietly. She finally looked him in the eyes, her calm breaking into a small, sad smile. "They're not my parents," she said softly, her voice carrying an unsettling finality. Before he could respond, one of the officers stepped closer, his face grim. "This isn't what we thought," he muttered, pulling the driver aside. "The girl wasn't just left alone. She's the one who called us." The delivery driver stared at him in shock as the little girl sat quietly in the back of the squad car, her gaze fixed on the house, watching it as though she had been waiting for this moment all along. As the commotion settled, the truth behind the night's events began to unfold. The man and woman escorted out by police were fugitives who had been hiding in the house for weeks. They had broken in while the family was away, turning the home into a hiding spot. But when the family returned early, things had spiraled. The parents were locked in the basement, unharmed but terrified, while the little girl had been forced to stay upstairs under their watchful eye. It was the girl's quick thinking that saved the day. Earlier that afternoon, when the delivery driver arrived, she seized the opportunity to subtly signal for help. Her calm demeanor had masked her fear, and her cryptic words were carefully chosen to raise suspicion without alerting the intruders. The parents were soon reunited with their brave daughter, tears of relief streaming down their faces. The delivery driver, still processing what had happened, was hailed a hero for trusting his instincts and acting quickly. As the police cars pulled away and the house returned to quiet, he couldn't help but feel grateful that he had been in the right place at the right time. The little girl gave him one last smile before disappearing inside with her family, a quiet reminder of how courage, no matter how small, can change everything.